According to, jeez, what the heck is wrong with my throat? According to Steam, the last time I played this game was November 30th. It is taking way longer to launch it than it has ever taken before. It is currently the 13th of December. The last time that I streamed this game was at HalloLand, where this was like, what, one of 2 games? One of 3 games that I didn't have any problems streaming at the event. All the other games I streamed at the event I had a lot of trouble with. So it's been a few weeks since I streamed this game. Jeez. Why am I suddenly coughing now after I thought I was done with my cold? I don't know what the heck is going on here. And it looks like this is the last game that I had set to game capture, so I'm already all set up here. So recently, at HalloLand itself, is when I finished off the longest playthrough of the year. Not just in terms of the amount of parts that it was, but like the amount of hours that went into it. I found out because of the whole Twitch recap thingamabob. I think I put it in announcements here. Yeah, let's have a look-see here. So, there was a Twitch recap thing that went out recently, and it showed me my top streamed categories of the year. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was, to no one's surprise, the game that I streamed the most of this year, because holy crap, I think that is the longest playthrough I've ever done on the channel. Like, single playthrough, like Fire Emblem 3 Houses across all its playthroughs might have still been longer, but like, holy crap. And number 2, the game that I'm streaming right now is the game that I've streamed the second most of this year, because holy crap, is this game long? So this has come to no surprise here. And then I'm honestly not that surprised at Unicorn Overlord either, but out of the 3 here, Unicorn Overlord is the one that I had the most fun with. I actually had a lot of fun with Unicorn Overlord. And then there was a lot of the Fire Emblem Fates Conquest playthrough going on this year. And then, when did Persona 5 Tactica come out? Wasn't that like last year though? What does it mean number 5 was Persona 5 Tactica? Like, when does it count the beginning of a year? Because I think it came out late last year. Persona 5 Tactica, when did that release? November 17th, 2023. And I thought I did most of my playthrough before that point. Like, I think I wasn't done with that game before 3 Reload came out. But I don't remember streaming a massive ton of it this year. Like, maybe the year rolls over sometime in terms of, like, Twitch stuff, sometime late last year, and then that would make sense because there is a decent length of Persona 5 Tactica. And then why is there not, like, a 6th thing? Why is there just a goat here? So, I don't know what the heck is going on with that. But, yeah, I've streamed a lot of this game. This game is finally cleared. I'm done with that. No more Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is right around the corner. And now, this is the final stream, jeez, of Persona 3 Reload. Main game, there's still DLC, so I won't exactly be done with it yet. But, in terms of the main thing that I've had going on since February of this year, I'm about to clear. It's about to be done. I think this was the file that I was going to load here. So, since the last time that I streamed this, I said that I was going to do my final Tartarus grind. Like, that was the point of doing, like, the last of the day-to-day. It's 123, and the game ends on the 31st, I think. So I have, like, another week in-game. And I figured this would be my final Tartarus run. And I started at HalloLand, and I did the whole run until, like, the final border floor. And I surprisingly had no issues with it when I had a lot of issues with games during HalloLand where OBS would just completely freeze my computer, and then it turned into a whole stressful mess about me trying to troubleshoot everything and get it working and find some way to stream when OBS kept not working. I don't know what caused it. OBS has worked fine since getting back here, but I had to go to the dark side and download SLOBS, like truly forsake my soul, to be able to stream again at all. And that came with its own set of issues, and yeah, the second half of HalloLand was a little bit of a mess. And then I think like maybe the cold weather in combination with like the severe lack of sleep that I had there, in combination with the insane amount of stress I had during the second half of the event trying to get my setup to work here to seemingly no avail, maybe all those things came together, and with their powers combined, I got the sickest that I've been in a long time. I was coughing up a lung for about 2 weeks. It was not great. So I figured after HalloLand, I was like, oh yeah, well, the end of the year is coming up here. Time to finish off my current project lickety split. And then I was sick, and then I didn't stream for a full 2 weeks. I got a lot of video editing done during that time, so it's not like I was doing nothing. I always like to feel like I'm being productive and making progress on things, so I've been making a lot of progress on videos for the channel that I'll post in due time when stuff is available. The only one that's been posted already is the tomatoes video that I made that I know I talked about earlier in this series when I was growing my tomatoes. So there's a video of that up now on a new gardening channel I started. I'm now a super big YouTuber because I have multiple channels. I doubt that there's all that much overlap interest between gamers and gardeners, but hey, in case anyone wants to know that. And during the time that I was sick, at first I didn't really want to focus on video editing, so I started making game progress initially. So I started doing my Tartarus grind while I was sick here. I figured that most of my time grinding would just be like when I can't be doing things like streaming anyway, like I'm out of town and making progress on my laptop. But I was sick and I couldn't stream anyway, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna do my Tartarus grind. And I did, and I fought the Reaper a whole bunch of times to level up the personas that I need level up to make, like, my final persona builds I wanted. I was like, I may as well make this like my Persona 5 Royal playthrough where I get that sweet 99% in the Persona Compendium. And so I looked up, like, the Compendium online and all the fusion recipes and stuff, and I started making everything in the Compendium. And then I made myself broke. And I was like, oh, well, I could just keep on grinding here, but most of the funds that I acquire in Tartarus are things to be sold. Even the stuff that I'm getting, like, from the Reaper, and the Reaper with the bloody button, whatever the heck thingamabob, does go for a whole lot. But if I wanted to redeem that, there's a little fruit fly in here, a fungus gnat to be specific. Hopefully it doesn't fly in my face too much. To redeem that, I would need to back out of Tartarus, and then I would have to sell all that stuff, and then come back into Tartarus, get the lover's card over again. I was like, you know what, I don't really feel like doing that, and all it really changes the amount of time that I put in and a little bit of save file complexity. So, whenever I cheat in single-player playthroughs on this channel, I always admit that I do. I did, for a little bit of funds, just because I was like, oh, I made myself broke, and I don't really feel like, even though I was sick and I had time, I kind of wanted to, instead of not cheating, and being able to say that I got through without cheating, and not get video editing done on stuff that I've been meaning to do for a long time, I'd rather invest my limited time into the video editing stuff that I wanted to get done, and just be like, yeah, I just cheated funds, because I started getting broke with the personas that I was making, and I didn't feel like just sitting around waiting for the Reaper, twiddling my thumbs over and over and over again, and just farming him over and over again, and backing out of Tartarus, going back in, friggin' crossing my fingers I get the Lover's Arcana card again, and keep on getting out RNG'd, not getting it to appear, and I was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna cheat. So I cheated funds, and I'll admit that. So, there was that. It doesn't give me any gameplay advantage, like in the now, it just takes away a little bit of the grinding time. So that was the reason for that. Well, I said my sweet 99% in the Persona Compendium. I didn't say 100% because I know I'm not getting 100%. But I got that sweet 99%, and I can show that really quickly. So I have this thing pretty filled now, and it's as filled as it's going to get. Like, it's not getting any better than this unless I start a New Game Plus at this point. So I have, if we have a look-see in the Compendium here, and then, yeah, I guess by Arcana is fine. I can say by level here. So the top, now Satan is level 99. My registered one, because there's some that, oh, not 99%. I have 98%. I don't know why it's 98, not 99. So it's as filled as it's getting. You see that there's no, like, dashes that show, hey, there's one that you can get here, but just don't have. Because there's one for finishing Aigus's social link, and then one that you unlock for finishing all the social links. So I guess I'm missing 2, unless there's like any New Game Plus specific ones. I know there's DLC ones as well, but like I'm not gonna bother shelling out for that crap. So my compendium is as filled as it's getting for this playthrough. That's as good as it's gonna get. And I'm pretty sure I did have enough funds to fill my compendium. I then just ran out of funds to make the personas that I wanted. And I could have just, like, lowered my old save file and then not filled my compendium and instead done my final builds that I wanted with those funds. But then after I put in all that time, like, going through filling my compendium slot by slot, I didn't want to feel like that was going down the drain. And then, yeah. But yeah, I'm not finishing Aigus in time, so yeah, that's too bad there, but I was pretty close. If I was more on top of things, I would have been able to 100% all the social links. Oh well. And apparently the completing all social links reward for a persona is apparently a really, really good one that really, really helps in the super boss. And I had to figure out how to do it without doing that. Yeah, Orpheus Telos is the name. So I got a few personas made, a lot of which are at level 99 to make the super boss as easy as possible when I'm just by facing the Reaper over and over again. So this is my new starting persona, where it's just like, yep, here's all the things that get raised at the start of battle. Here's, I guess I don't really need growth 3 anymore. I can take that off and use some skill card or something like that. I think I was going to put regenerate 3 on here, but I think I only have one regenerate 3 left, so I was going to duplicate it and then put it on so I don't lose it forever, apart from like grinding to randomly get it again. I think that's what was going on here. And then just because that would be the normal resistance there, and then like don't get these here. Yeah, I did a bit of research into the super boss, and I will say that I have some complaints. So this is just like for normally. She's not gonna lead with like a fire attack on turn 1, so I don't really need to worry about that. Messiah here is my person to go ahead and like bloody charge. I was gonna charge and bloody charge and have like all the things here, including Heat Riser and Debilitate, but I couldn't inherit that many things, even though I was passing down charge in like the tree that I had in the friggin' persona build maker thing on whatever that website is. I could only inherit so many things, and I was like, oh well, I guess that's not happening there. So he's just meant to be like as tanky as possible here while being able to help me do this stuff as a general persona. I can't actually use this guy against the super boss much unless I know the super boss is gonna be using a fire, ice, electric, or wind attack. So this is like a nice general good persona to have for like Heat Riser, Debilitate, and then Concentrate and Bloody Charge, just to have those around as like a general persona. But this is not one that helps me at the super boss, unfortunately. So this is my one that helps me with the super boss. Saki Mitama, to have access to Heat Riser and Debilitate, and then just Concentrate just because. So he's like my bargain bin messiah here, is what's going on here. / bargain bin Orpheus Telos. I did research into like recommended builds for the super boss, and I semi-adopted some, I kind of changed some around, and I also like put some of my own stand-ins in places and stuff like that, so I'm not following like any one guide specifically, but I am picking up things from different ones. And this is the Dudo that was recommended for like the bargain bin Orpheus Telos, just for like a super resist kind of thing. And so this will be my main Heat Riser, Debilitate, Concentrate, Bloody Charge kind of guy. But here's my bargain bin version, just for the super boss. And then after I'm done with the super boss, I don't really need this guy anymore because I'll have this guy. So like, so here's my guy specifically for the super boss, because the super boss has rules. You're not allowed to nullify things. You're not allowed to reflect things. You're not allowed to absorb things. So if I get hit with any physical attack with Messiah here, or light or dark, yeah, I break the rules and then I lose the boss. So yeah, that's why there's bargain bin Saki Mitama here. So that's the reason for this guy, even though after I'm done with the super boss, I'm probably not going to use this guy ever again. So there's that. Most endgame personas have a null of some kind, which sucks for the super boss. Yeah, that's what it seems like from some of these guys. So yeah, here's a much earlier persona that I had to beat the Reaper a few times to force up to level 99 so that his stats didn't suck. So that's why he exists. That's the reason for that. Thanatos is my all-in on the almighty damage here. I think if you want like the best almighty damage, you have to go with Satan, because there's I forget what the term for it is, but there's like a thing that's bigger than massive or something like that. Is it severe? It's something like that, and it takes like 82 SP. So there is a single target almighty thing that does hit a little bit harder, but it's Satan exclusive. You can't pass it down. And I went all in on this. When I found out that there was, yeah, Black Viper, that's what it is. There's Almighty Amp, but nobody gets this by default. You can only get Almighty Amp from skill mutation, is the case. And I was like, do I really want to deal with RNG? But if I'm putting all this effort into making like final builds anyway, it'll feel like a waste if I know I'm falling short of like the best that it can be. So I said, screw it, I'm just gonna go for it. So I had Almighty Boost, which I think is exclusive to Hellel, but you can inherit. Well, it's not exclusive. It's the only person that gets it normally, and you can inherit it on other Dudos. So just fuse Hellel into a new persona, and then fuse that persona into a new persona, and then that persona into a new persona, over and over and over again, trying to get Almighty Boost to mutate into Almighty Amp until I get someone with Almighty Amp, and then I can use the fusion calculator to figure out how I get that onto the persona that I actually want it on. And when I was looking up the rules of skill mutation, apparently skills will always, like, level up. At least there's like levels of skills, so it's like a level 1 skill will mutate into some random level 2 skill, and a level 2 skill will randomly mutate into some level 3 skill. Apparently when you get high enough into like rank 10 or 11 or whatever the hell it is for Almighty Boost, then it's no longer guaranteed to go to the next level, but there's a chance it could go down a few levels as well. And apparently the rank that this is at, there's only like 4 something skills in that category anyway, so maybe that's why they did that. So, and there was a lot of sites that didn't say that. So I thought that my game was just bugging out when Almighty Boost kept on mutating into all this other random garbage that I didn't want. And I was like, what? I thought that wasn't supposed to be possible. Wasn't it always supposed to rank up in some way? So I should have a 1 in 4 chance if it successfully mutates. And yeah, so I started to get to a little bit of my wit's end, and I was going at it for a few hours during my during my sick period. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna try a few more times and see if I get it. And then eventually I got Almighty Amp, and I was like, oh, okay, I have Almighty Amp now. I guess I may as well use it. So then I figured out how to like fuse it into Thanatos, and I was like, that'll be kind of cool if Thanatos, like story reasons and stuff like that, since he was the little kiddo Pharaohs and Scarf Man and all that. So I was like, he'd be fitting to use in the final battle. What if he's just my guy that hits like the hardest for that? And I also found out that if you fuse Thanatos and Orpheus, that's how you get Messiah, as I found out when I was trying to fill my compendium. And I think it's cool how it kind of combines the designs of Orpheus and the designs of Thanatos. Like, you could see the little coffin-y things down there, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I know he won't hit the hardest. I would have to go with, like, Satan and max out my stats and stuff like that and use Black Viper, and I was like... But it's cool because story reasons and all that. So he feels cooler than weird-looking Satan dude. So I'll feel cooler by doing it. It's just like putting on cosmetic items in video games. You know what they say? You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. So he's gonna make me feel good, and I'm gonna play better and stuff. Oh, you're not talking about Almighty in general. Yeah, I have found out that, like, physical is absolutely the way to go and is absolutely cracked. I still have my Siegfried, and I think I am going to use my Siegfried a lot on the final boss because, holy crap, yeah, physical is really, really broken in this game, as I have very much found out. So anyway, Morningstar hits all foes, so I put on multi-target boost to make it hit even harder. There's a whole Almighty Amp, Almighty Boost. This is specifically for the super boss. I can get something better in this slot sometime later. Apparently, you can go to, like, the antique store and get like a resist or nullify physical thing crafted, and I could put that into that slot. It is specifically Repel Strike because of something to use on the super boss. So I've kind of substituted Thanatos in the slot where I've seen videos of other people using Repel Strike at a certain point in the boss to be able to like semi-cheese it over a little bit. So that's the reason why Repel Strike is here. It seems a little bit out of place, but there's a specific reason for it just for that one battle. Otherwise, it's really not needed. Remember, Eurobeat is scientifically proven to boost your gaming skills by 20%? Source? What be the source on this? You're normally weak to light, I think. I don't remember. This was a few weeks ago that I built this at this point. And then Endure and Enduring Soul. And at first, I thought that these were things that kind of would stack in terms of, like, you could have Enduring Soul and Endure on multiple personas and proc it multiple times, because it says, like, survive a fatal blow with HP fully recovered, and, survive a fatal blow with 1 HP remaining. So I thought this would be, like, per persona. Okay, not gonna go, like, full in on the reference, but pretty close, and I still respect it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get, like, Endure and Enduring Soul on a bunch of personas, and also put on, like, a chest guard that gives me Endure. Nope, it's only once per battle, even if you have it on multiple personas. So if I use an Enduring Soul on another persona, and I, like, come back and get a bunch of my HP back on some other persona I had equipped, and then I switch to Thanatos, I can't use Enduring Soul again. I can still use Endure, but that's just once per battle, universally, not once per battle per persona like I thought it was. And when I was looking it up, I could have sworn I found out was, like, per persona, and that would be really strong, but who would go onto the internet and tell lies, am I right? So that was a little bit of a nasty awakening when I found out that that wasn't the case, because, spoilers, I have faced the super boss a few times, like testing things out and seeing if the things I had in my head worked. only to find out that they didn't work and needing to lab things a little bit. So yeah, that was a little bit of a rude awakening, but I do have Enduring Soul on Thanatos. So he's just here to like survive, hit really hard with Almighty, and this can change to something else sometime later, but is literally just here for the super boss. So that's the reason why that's there. Of course, Siegfried is still here, who now has 3 stats max, because I was burning my off days on just like boosting his stats. So yeah, that's why he's here. I'm pretty sure when I was grinding some stuff out, no, it wasn't when I was grinding stuff out. It's when I wanted to hit as hard as possible for the super boss. I took off Vorpal Blade and I put on single target boost here, but I can just get Vorpal Blade back if I want. I have skill cards for it. So I was like, okay, this really isn't a big deal to take off. I'm only going after one foe in the super boss anyway, so I may as well. So this was specifically for the super boss, and then I can literally just put Vorpal Blade back on whenever I feel like it, because I have skill cards for it. So Siegfried is the exact same, minus the hitting all targets, because I don't need to hit all targets right now. And yeah, I don't really need Vorpal Blade. I probably could just keep this on through to like the final boss, because I'm sure the final boss is probably just gonna be like one target as well. So, like, I have the option of putting Vorpal Blade back on if I ever want, but I don't really think I'll need to for the rest of this playthrough. I don't know how many more encounters there's gonna be with multiple targets anyway, so it's like, who really cares? So that's why Siegfried is the way that he is. I got a fully built, like, Ice Persona here, because apparently Ice Persona is, like, really helpful in the Elizabeth fight. So, here's just severe to one foe. There's the one weakness being covered, just generally, it's not for the super boss. It doesn't matter for the super boss. This is for Diamond Dust, and apparently multi-target boost affects Theurgies, so that's why multi-target boost is here despite there only being like a single target attack. And then of course like Ice Amp, Ice Boost, Freeze Boost, and apparently it stacks with Ailment Boost because Freeze counts as an ailment according to the internet, assuming that people aren't going onto the internet and telling lies, which could always be the case. I don't completely trust it, but apparently it stacks, so that's why Ailment Boost is there. So that's going on there. Of course I have my Odin, that was like my lightning persona that I was putting stuff into after I was done with Siegfried. So he's just the same way that he is here, and he's like the one guy that I didn't take the time to bring up to level 99 just because I wasn't using him during Elizabeth at all, and I was like, what's the point? I could take some time to get him to level 99 like the others, but I can't be bothered. So I wasn't bothered. So he's still pretty strong, but he's not level 99 like the others. There was like my multi-hitting Loki to hit like all the weaknesses. And then I realized sometime later when I was grinding against random foes and trying to get like the skill cards I need, I was grinding for the cups to be able to immediately start with the charge concentrate against Elizabeth. And I realized when I fused together my all weakness hitting Loki, that I think my eyes were broken and I put on fucking the Almighty instead of Light. So never mind. This guy isn't actually what I thought I made him into. And oops. So yeah, he's my little mistake there. Ignore that. This one was just like randomly made as I was fusing crap together and trying to make space. And I was like, you know, that's not too bad. And I can use it defensively when there was light attacks that I needed to resist in the Elizabeth fight. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm leveling you up a little bit just so I could take Elizabeth attacks better. Because I tried going against Elizabeth a little bit, and I was failing miserably, and then I was like, okay, I'm getting my other personas up to level 99. And then here's just like random crap that I fused along the way. Like, hey, look, here's a whole bunch of like damage to one target and a whole bunch of things. I don't think that this is something that I specifically went out of my way to make along the way. This is just something that worked out this way, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So then it's just a whole bunch of random crap. This is just like a persona that happened to be in my inventory at the end, and then, yeah, another one, and yeah. So, was that the final boss of SMT1? Was Azura? Interesting. So yeah, that's why I've got on what I've got on here. In terms of my equipment right now, I have Excalibur. There is a better sword that I can get if I just backed out and went to the antique shop, I'm pretty sure. But I didn't want to back out. So, okay, so there's different routes. Intromisting. This is just like the best armor I had here. There is Sid's jacket that gives me an endure, but after I found out it didn't stack, like I found out the hard way, I started taking it off and I was like, yeah, there's no point in that. I found out that the Shoes of Bane here, despite not being the best thing, Elizabeth uses dark insta-kill attacks, so this helps. I also don't know how the hell homunculus work. It's like some item in your inventory that will like nullify an insta-kill but get used up. And it happened to me a couple times where it's like the homunculus disappeared or the homunculus consumed itself or whatever the hell when I got hit by dark insta-kill attacks. but when I went to retry the battle, I would get hit, like, for the first time with a dark insta-kill attack and be insta-killed. I was like, what? Didn't I have a homunculus? So does it not carry over across, like, saves slash battle retries? Does it not refresh like my other items? So I don't know what the hell was going on there. I didn't want to deal with it, so I just started putting on the Shoes of Bane. I put on Incense Box after I found out that Elizabeth likes to use the ailments a whole lot with a whole lot of phases, and so I was just like, I really don't want to deal with that. So I put on the Incense Box, and that seemed to help things. And then, I don't know, friggin' it makes even Tartarus feel like summer. Yeah, that's what I should do there. Also, when I was attempting it before, I literally forgot until I started the stream. I had a tab open just for, like, what attacks Elizabeth did. So, and that would help me, because I don't actually have it memorized. Persona 3 Reload. Elizabeth, and I think the site that I went to was Game 8? How to defeat Elizabeth? Yeah, that page, but I just wanted to see her attacks. No, I don't need to see the best Persona setup. Yeah, because there's the different phases here. So, essentially, she cycles personas, is the case. And this was very, very helpful to refer to. So she starts out with Cert and then uses like some sort of fire attack. And then I'll do Jack Frost and do 2 of these. She always does like 2 of some combination of things here. So she'll do 2 different things of this, and then 2 different things of this on the next turn, and then 2 different things of this on the next turn, and so on and so forth, and go around. But there's a lot of mechanics and rules that go into this, and I want to talk about them a little bit here. So, in my attempts against Elizabeth, can I get to where I want to get to on OBS here? There we go. I've learned some interesting things. I do think that is like a really interesting and unique super boss. I think it's cool to be facing a super boss that uses personas like you do and can cycle across multiple ones. And it is like a cool challenge. I don't think it's quite as bullshit as something like Galdera from Octopath Traveler 2. But I do definitely have some complaints with it. One, the fact that there are rules to the fight that the game never tells you and doesn't even like hint at, and you just have to either like figure out or you find out from the internet like I did. Essentially, if you, as I was mentioning earlier, if I look at Messiah here, if you nullify, reflect, or absorb any of her attacks, she'll use a special Megilodon that does 9,999 damage, which is also extra confusing because one of her attacks, if I bring up the thingamabob here, is a normal Megilodon. So the moment she finishes her cycle, she always does like this thing. By these ones, there's just like 2 possible things. So those are like the 2 things that she always does. So she'll always do Concentrate and then Megidolon. And that's just like a normal Megidolon. It hits really hard, almighty damage, especially considering she just Concentrated. It hits hard. But Masakato's Megidolon is just normal Megidolon. But if you break one of her rules, she uses a special Megidolon, which is still called Megidolon, where she summons Pixie instead. Like, that's the only visible difference, is the persona that she uses it with is different, being like the lowest level persona in the game. But it always does 9,999 damage. Like, if you wanted to clearly set it apart as a different thing, you would make it a different spell, a different attack. Instead of being like, huh, that's weird that one of them is hitting for 9,999 and one of them just isn't. One of them is actually survivable. Like, that is just how to add to confusion. And if you wanted to, like, hint at the rules, you can have Elizabeth say something like, you shouldn't have done that. Now I'm gonna use my Megidolon, and then use her Megidolon. And then the player can be like, oh, okay, so I can't reflect or absorb or do anything like that. That way the player knows. But no, she just immediately hits you with 9,999 Megidolon. No comments, nothing on the matter. Just like, surprise, get screwed. Why'd it happen? Take a guess, unless you find it from the internet or put the pieces together. So I'm not a big fan of that, I will admit. Megidoladian is something like that. Just something different. Megilovania Delon? No, I don't know. It just sounded similar, and I was like, maybe there's some ways to combine them. That didn't work out all that well. So that's one complaint I have with the Super Boss. Another complaint is I think it's when she goes from phase 1 to phase 2 that she immediately does one of those 9,999 Megidolons. You're not stopping it. So you literally need an Endure or an Enduring Soul to be able to get through the boss at all and have that at the ready at that moment, unless there's like some sort of crazy ninjutsu that I'm missing. So I don't think that that should be like a guarantee in a boss battle where it's like, yep, out of nowhere, unprompted, the boss is gonna hit something that is going to kill you unless you have like a skill to just survive it. I don't like that. I don't think it's good game design. So that's another complaint with the super boss. Another complaint is hidden weaknesses. So just like you, as she shifts around personas, those personas have strengths and weaknesses, and you can use Fuka to analyze her and see like what things she resists, like what things can I not use at this point. But it never shows weaknesses, but she has weaknesses, so you hit her with them, and it will do extra damage, but the game won't tell you that it did extra damage. It won't come up in text saying weakness. And I guess maybe they did that because like there's no downing Elizabeth, there's no getting a down and then following up getting a one more. But you could just have it be show a weakness just so that the player knows that they can hit that and be able to do more damage. And then she doesn't get knocked down and the player is like, oh, okay, I guess there's no downing in this fight. But hey, at least I did extra damage and I can feel good about having hit that weakness. But nope, it just shows up as like normal damage number as if nothing changed. But it is actually hitting harder. And there's another hidden mechanic that comes with it. So the thing that I showed earlier, as I've found out here, because yeah, I have experience with Elizabeth now. If you hit a weakness, so let's say I use ice on Cert, as I plan to. When you hit her hidden weakness, she skips a persona in her list. So if I hit Cert with ice, she isn't going to use Jack Frost. She's going to immediately jump to Thor, is how it works. And if I hit, like, Thor's weakness, for example, then she would skip Cuckoo Lane and go right to Metatron. It'd be nice if the game told you this, because I don't mind having, like, a very complex problem that I'm trying to figure out solutions to, and figure out, like, the one way that I can solve that. But the game has to tell me that information, like what is at my disposal, what are things that I can use to my advantage and disadvantage, and what do I have to play around, instead of just being like, whoop, figure it out, or use the internet. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that very much. Do I have any other complaints with the super boss? I think that might be all of them. Maybe I'll remember some more later, but those are my key complaints with it. So, I do really like having a super boss in the form of Elizabeth and someone that's basically using your power against you as she cycles personas. I think that's cool. But I do think it could have been handled better, I will admit. So, yeah, that's the key stuff I want to talk about Elizabeth that I didn't know when I took her on at Megaland. So that's the stuff that I know going into it now. Like, Demifeed in SMT5 will use Gaia Rage, which is basically a guaranteed one-shot if he doesn't need to resummon a demon, and every time you do 1/8 of his health, he uses an attack which cuts your next turn in half, and has a chance to insta-kill your whole party. Oh, and the Priestess boss also has an invisible weakness to fire. Oh, interesting. I think she's the only other boss with that feature. Weird. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember, but I wonder if I had ever used fire on her, and then been like, oh, I guess that's not a weakness, I'm not gonna do it again. It is possible. Or maybe I just kept on spamming it anyway, because I was like, oh, magic hits harder than physical at this point, because I was, like, unenlightened at that point. So, yeah, that's the stuff with that. It has been a couple weeks since actually fighting here, because I was getting over being sick, and I was taking her on and devising all this stuff while I was sick. So it is possible that if I go and take her on, I might not be able to do it, but I will give it a good go. And I know that it is possible to defeat her like this. I remembered one more thing that I wanted to mention that's just important to keep in mind for how I'm going to handle this fight. Is I do want to finish her off with Armageddon, the 9,999 hitting attack, just to like skip as much of the boss as possible. But she has 20,000 health, so I can only really pop it after I get her down to that much HP. I did try to cheese it on one attempt, where it's like I just start with Armageddon and then I use Endure and Enduring Soul to just like survive long enough to get it to charge up again and do, but I can't kill her with 2 of those. I need to do a little bit of damage on top of that. And after she starts a second phase, she starts phase 2 after you get to 13,000 HP. So after you've gone from 20k to 13k, so a little bit less than halfway of her health, she will start phase 2, where she does a few specific attacks, and then she fully heals herself, and then gets the next phase properly underway. The goal is essentially to get her to 13k then do as much damage as possible to get her down to under 10k, and then kill her with Armageddon before phase 3 properly starts. That is essentially the strategy. And I don't actually remember the order of which she does attacks after starting phase 2. And I did at one point when I was trying this like 2 weeks ago, but it's been a couple weeks and I've been sick, and I would have done this like right after figuring out what the strategy was, but whoops, I've been sick and I didn't get the chance, so that's the reason for that. So I will give it a go here. Non chances to kill your whole party, but like an individual insta-kill on each of your party members, which has a chance to proc. Oh. Huh. Well, I guess that's something that I'll deal with if I ever end up playing that game there. Yeah, so if I go ahead and jump to my furthest point here. So, yeah, that's the stuff to know about this. So, let's go try it out. I'll give it a good attempt on stream here, and we'll see what happens if I don't get my shit kicked in. Probably the location Elizabeth referred to in her request. Beyond this point lies the ultimate adversary.